Hey guys, my name is Lenny and this is the first piece of my kinda tutorial or showcase how I made the best Java web app so far, like in my history. It is a Spring, Hibernate, Spring Security, Primefaces, JSF2 application, simply put. And in this part I want to show you how Spring Security works in Java web applications. This is the application. I don't care about looks right now. I'm working hard on preparing the functionalities as the demo is supposed to go out in 1 month, so I'm pretty busy. This is the login form, which uses Spring Security, and it authenticates the user, and that's it. You can log out as well. Those buttons are linked to users' permissions, so if I got the right permissions and I'm authenticated, I can see more buttons and I can like do more stuff. Back to code. I don't really use the Spring Security configuration file, because I have noticed that I don't like XML configuration files. I totally hate them, so I want to keep them clean and I want to keep them short. That's why I deleted the Spring Security configuration and I've moved it to the application context, because I want to keep my configuration like together if possible, unless it's for faces config. So the Spring Security part is right here. This is the Spring Security part. Now this first part says that intercept this address pattern and check if the user is authenticated. If he's not, it's gonna like push him back to the home site. Now this works for the login form. If you F up your login, it's gonna push you somewhere else. If you do it well, you're gonna pass the login check or authentication check and you're gonna be authenticated. This part just says that you're able to log out and it redirects to this site. This is the most important part. This says use like custom user service reference or user service implementation, whatever. I'm using this to like manually authenticate the user. I've noticed that M. Kyung, I don't know, the Korean, Chinese, whatever guy, used like SQL queries right in the configuration file to authenticate the user. I don't really like that. You don't really have any control over what's going on, and that's why I used my own custom user service class. I'm gonna show you the class right away, just bear with me a moment. Now this isn't really Spring Security. All this does, it kinda says that you're gonna be using annotations and you're gonna be using them in these classes or packages. So that's it. Alright, now I'm gonna go to the user service class. I'm using the model view controller design, and this is how I name interfaces. This is how I name implementations. So the most important part regarding Spring Security is this class. It needs to implement this class, and by implementing that class you need to override some stuff. Now it's pretty hard to say which stuff if you don't know, because I'm using my own interface, but yeah, I remember. You need to override this method, which basically loads the user from database by his username. It throws some sort of exception I don't really care about that. But all it does, it uses my own method to load the user, because I want to do things my way, and I didn't really like that I was pushed by Spring Security to use some naming or other conventions. Alright, so you can load the user through this, and that's it. Now, the important part is on the user, because the user has to implement user details. Of course, again, Spring Security, you need to abide their rules. And you need to override get authorities, which returns a string, well, list of permissions. For them, it basically returns the list of roles, but I kinda don't want to return roles, but permissions. I'm gonna explain this later on. Again, it returns, well, you need to return the password, you need to return the username, and there's a bunch of stuff you don't really need to care about right now. All it does, it always returns true, because I'm not really using that right now. And there's login logout method. And there's missing javadoc, whatever. All this does is it kinda, if the user is authenticated, it sets the response, right? Okay. Really? Let me just rename that real quick. Alright. It sets the user to the faces context, and you can access it from anywhere. From the view, from controller, or whatever. Which is really useful. And again, response, whatever. Now, here we go. I'm totally OCD about this stuff. And logout just removes the user from the context. Now, that's not really over, right? You need more stuff. So, every user has to have a list of authorities. For me, it's permission list, which basically says it's not the role like, yeah, he's an admin, or yeah, he's a user, but it's like, can he delete, category, can he create new user, or something similar. So that's the permission list. Permission has to implement granted authority. Again, Spring Security, you need to abide the rules. So you need to override something, right? And that's kind of only this thing where you return the string representation of the permission, which is the real thing. That's the thing I was talking about. Like, can he delete something? Can he create something? Or can he see something? That's really important as well. Now, you need to use the role as well, but this role is like admin, user, whatever. Oh, you don't really need to use the role. I'm using the role myself because I want to keep the system like as transparent as possible. So I have 2 users, and they got only, yeah, best password ever, and they got only 1 role, and that is admin. This way I can like keep certain roles and add them certain permissions, and this enables me to, well, I got more control over user permissions and users, which is really useful and important to me. You don't really need a role. Alright, you don't, but yeah, it kinda sucks not having it. So this is how you set up Spring Security. Now, it might be tricky if you're not used to Spring, well, Hibernate annotations. This might be confusing to you. All these annotations does, it kinda says that there's a class called permission, which there's a bunch of classes, a list of permission classes where there are fields, field called user, which is here, and it kinda creates a connection between user and permission. Now, it also states that if you want to create new permission, you cannot create the user object with it, because when I'm gonna be creating an administration panel, I want to create new permission, yeah, and if I want to create a new permission, I don't want to create new user, because that would kinda suck. The same goes for the role, and that's why I'm using this part. Alright, the fetch type eager is really necessary here, because you need to load everything right away for Spring Security to check the, well, to authenticate the user. But sometimes you can use fetch type lazy, like the role isn't really Spring Security related stuff, well, in this context, so I can use fetch type lazy for its permissions. So I can load the role, and after I'm trying to access permissions, it like loads those permissions for me. So it doesn't, it's good performance wise, I mean. One other thing to mention is cascade. Now, sometimes I don't want to use, no, whatever, I'm gonna try to say this simply. Sometimes you don't want to save the role with all its permissions, and if you don't want to save the role with all the permissions, you can change this to, for example, refresh. What refresh does is it enables you to load the role including its permissions, but if you want to save the role to the database, it won't save all those permissions. Now, cascade types are really important, and you need to know how to control the flow in the application. Luckily you can use more cascade types at once, so I can like have an object inside another object that I want to only load or remove. So I can like, I think, do this, and then you can like type and there will be refresh. Yeah, that's how you control what's going on in Hibernate cascades with annotations. Alright, I think that's enough for the first part. So I have told you how the Spring Security is wired together for it to work like a charm, and you get all the control over it as you can get. Also, I'm gonna show you how to use those permissions. This is the main panel, like this part which you don't see. Never mind. Alright, I'm gonna be talking about these this line or these buttons. There's the home button, and it's rendered only if the user is authenticated. So if I'm not authenticated by the Spring Security, this button wouldn't be rendered to the source code of the site. That's what the rendered tag says. This is another example how I can use Spring Security role check, and only those users who have this permission on them, which is, you can see, yeah, that's the one. Only those can see this button. The same goes for the product button or product button, and that's pretty much it for this part. There's the logout button, which uses the logout method in user, which I've showed you before, and that's it. So the next part might be either Hibernate annotations, like more in depth, or more about Primefaces, or more about certain problems I have encountered in the application and how I solved them. Alright, if you're interested, stay tuned, subscribe or like or whatever. If you got questions, use private messages. I sometimes miss comments and I really like to answer some really hardcore questions which sometimes come from certain people. So yeah. Alright, I think that's it, and see ya in the next part.